slamming Elon Musk's recent series of tweets saying they have a, quote, anti-Semitic feeling to it. Yesterday, Musk launched a baseless Twitter attack against George Soros, the progressive Jewish philanthropist who's often the target of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Musk tweeted that Soros reminds him of Magneto, a comic book supervillain. Both, of course, Soros and Magneto are Holocaust survivors and Jewish. Musk's reply, he wrote, Soros does not have good intentions and, quote, wants to erode the very fabric of civilization. Soros hates humanity, unquote. Obviously, it's not necessarily anti-Semitic to criticize George Soros, but
Democratic Party ecosystem, so long as you serve the centers of power that exist within that.
And if you worry about misinformation on Facebook, what's even worse about this is that they use these legitimizing sites and they try to pressure Facebook in order to make them like a trusted source of information so they can go and fact check different stuff, right? So it has a good veneer, then Facebook will give it the green light, preferential treatment in its algorithm, and now you have fake news under the guise of combating misinformation spreading like wildfire and being shared by, I make fun of right-wing boomers a lot here on the show, left-wing boomers being like, oh my God, can you believe this? Share on Facebook, share on Facebook to some group or whatever, and sending it to your nephew even though he's like, Grandma, please stop saying this stuff. It's completely not true. So
and just again, so you know.
Yeah, so anyway, I had a long intro there. Sorry for the long intro, but this one's for Madison. Madison, we have not spoken in a long time, since 2020. We've had our Twitter wars and such, and I do want to apologize for being triggered by your opinion, but I can't respect that your opinion was guided by misinformation or being gaslit. Now, what does this have to do with this book? This is now George Soros. Now, there's a reason why I'm not going to talk about this on TikTok, because I don't want TikTok to say that I'm bullying. How can I bully a rich dude here? This guy cannot be bullied. I mean, you don't have to like him, but I'm just worried about TikTok taking down this review. So it's on YouTube. I'll direct people over here, and that'll be it. So I've heard about George Soros since 2020, when the George Floyd riots happened. I'd heard about his name, and I said, okay, I made a mental note of this, okay, because between the riots and the peaceful BLM protests and the not so peaceful protests and the voting systems and the pandemic and all this stuff, and Trump was recently indicted, arrested, and then let go, just like before, and then the one previous was with Alvin Bragg and all this stuff that was going on. And a smart person would say, well, if either one of two things is here. Either the Democrats believe in kicking people when they're down, or there's an asterisk by the 2020 election. Okay? Now, keep in mind, this is YouTube, so I have to say that I have no proof of any fraud. There is no proof. There's a lot of circumstance, but no hardcore proof, unless somebody wants to say something, which nobody's going to say anything. It's kind of like JFK, back and to the left, the magic bullet. And I have no sympathy for the Republicans that much, okay? One, because of people like Mike Pence, who threw Trump under a bus, under the fastest Greyhound that ever existed. And two, when you look at Proposition 8 from Obama's inaugural, presidential term, they were trying to prevent gay people from getting married. Let gay people do what they want. As long as they're not for the gay pride stuff, the corporate stuff, I don't give a fuck about. I could care less. But let people do what they want. It's not bothering us. That woman that didn't want to marry two men in another state because she didn't, you do your job or leave. Get a podcast, create your own internet. So it's hard to not be political when we're talking about this book. Now, this book, some of it got boring, but most of it was pretty straightforward, okay? I think somebody wrote a comment in, I think the one I showed you, the Breaking Points. Got a great new studio, by the way. But when they did this video, when they comment came up was that they took out a lot of laws for the 1970s where millionaires and billionaires would have a hand in how many newsrooms and how many not social media, but multimedia and magazines and what they could control or what they could not control. And, now we just have millionaires and billionaires controlling whatever. I mean, the truth is, your favorite politician's probably backed by somebody. The only Democrat I probably liked, besides Nick Diaz, who was a classmate of mine in college, was probably Bill Richardson. I mean, most of these, Bill Richardson has sympathy for the Russians, at least, Bill's a humble guy. He did run for president once, but wasn't popular enough. I mean, I feel like the most popular people, AOC, Nancy Pelosi, even some of the Republicans, some of these people, like the more popular they are, the more crooked they are. Even I would say even Trump has got his crooked ways with Saudi Arabia. But and I recall I did it and Matt, I did a video one time like shaming Trump, and that was when we heard that that was just after he made the comments that were edited out of context about Mexicans. And I think I still have it on my 3DS. I should watch that and share that. It's like when Jeremy Griggs praised The Last Jedi trailer, and then he had to look back at the cringe. But I mean, this book is about a guy who felt sympathy for the Nazis, felt sympathy for Hitler, and then decided to manipulate the system through his own colleges, his own he decided, it's taking me 7 minutes to get to the real context of this book. But in this book, we go about the elections, George Floyd, Ukraine and Russia. And let me tell you, like, the only Ukrainians I feel bad for are the women, the children, and the guys who put in 8 hours to 10 hours to feed their families. They didn't ask for this war. NATO, I don't know why there needs to be a NATO alliance for more power. I don't trust Zelensky. I don't like Putin, but I really don't trust Zelensky. And I don't know what's going on. But we got ourselves in the midst of a war that we don't need to get in the midst of. I think Jeremy from D-Day Cobra once said that it wasn't so much the Mexicans' comment. It was the fact that Trump criticized other people and said, I'm not sure if it was the last election or if it was the 2016 election or if it was the 2012. But he had criticized, because obviously Trump ran for president before. He criticized Bush, the Bush crime family, of the weapons of mass destruction, the WMDs that weren't there in Iraq, that we went after Saddam Hussein for what? And that was true. I mean, almost everybody agrees on this. The Green Zone with Matt Damon, one of my favorite war movie. Why did we go over there? So that led to a whole, affront against them. And you had millionaires like George Soros to back them up. I think Crystal Sager said one time, or no, not Crystal Sager, I was like, Crystal Ball said that the Democrats were against the military until they had control of the military. Then they just stopped criticizing the military because the Republicans had the military in the 80s. There are a lot of things. Our system is made up of all these checks and balances, but not for the people, for each other, for the politicians. There are career politicians. You got Tulsi Gabbard, who criticizes every day. You got other people who are just tired of the shit. The politicians that you never see on TV all the time or in social media, the ones you might have heard about, some of them may be assholes, and some of them just want to get things done right. And you never see them. The best politicians are the ones that you have to use word of mouth. They're not there on social media all the time. They're not there on TV all the time or radio. They're somebody that you might have heard of, but because of the popularity contest, they're not on the final voting ballot. And, I did talk about this YouTube comment about how all these circumstances were happening on that November night in 2020 before the tallying was done, that Well, okay, there's no proof of fraud, but isn't it odd that all these things are happening? Isn't it strange? It's strange to me that all these things are happening. And who suffers for this? We, the people, suffer. We are the victims. We suffer. And worse yet, we get misinformed, you know? So I want to make this clear to Madison. It's okay to make fun of Trump. It's okay to make fun of a guy with a bad hairpiece and who talks a lot and acts like an idiot. But Trump is not the problem. He is the least of the problems. When you got millionaires, and by the way, if Trump did exactly the things that George did, he would have been like, they would have found, I can't snap my fingers anymore right now, but he would have been found out. They would have said, oh, look what he's doing. Oh yeah, what's he doing? What's George doing? We would have been attacking each other. It would have been a bloodbath. And we're suffering for that. We want to make sure that employment goes back up. We want to make sure that our employment system works. If people had looked out for each other at Universal Studios, I would have still stayed at my job. You wouldn't have been seeing me much. If we had better systems in place and stop with the woke narratives to try to mislead people, the reason why they do this is they want. You say, well, why do Democrats care then? Why do they bring this stuff about race and gender? Because they, like the Republicans, they want to go through your personal belongings. The government wants to go through your purse. They want to go through your wallet. They want to go through your books. They want to go through your phone calls and your pictures and your internet and your tablets and your computers. They want to go through all your privacy. And they'll find some sort of Palpatine way to do it, to deceive you, to get all your free shit. That's what they try to do. They want all your free stuff. And when you have millionaires like this went over his history, him growing up, how he became a businessman. He reminds me of Bobby Kotick, who is currently the CEO of Activision Blizzard, okay? Sluggish guy, but where Bobby decided to just make money off of games and suckers, people buying into microtransactions, he got into politics and how you have classes in colleges, Soros colleges, misinforming people about race and critical race theory, and how certain politicians or certain evidence is never brought up, or the way lawyers would handle things, the way politicians would handle cases and bills. Soros had a hand in a lot of these things. Now, in the end, you may say, even if you take Soros away, there are crooked politicians anyway. Oh yeah, but the millionaires and the billionaires help fund their bullshit. And even though Hunter Biden is now like kind of getting into the spotlight of, oh, he's the troubled kid, and the dad, nobody looks at dad because dad's still got to finish his presidential term. And then you got the even more crooked is Kamala Harris, and I will always call her Senator Harris. It is a shame. I will rate this book about an 8 out of 10. It does get boring at times because you're just looking at all these numbers. I would say for Madison, who I have not spoken to since 2020, I would say it's going to get boring looking at numbers and graphs. I know you don't care about this stuff, but once you get to a proper noun that you care about in this book, you will be glued to it. You may not be glued to the numbers and figures, but you will be glued to this nonetheless. So I'm sorry for our differences. We may never speak to each other again, but I want you to know, I mean, there were a lot of people we all argued with about vaccines, and, it's like Jeremy said, it's not that The Last Jedi was another bad movie. It's that the politics were weaponized to say, if you didn't like this movie, you were sexist or racist. If you don't go to Soros brand things, you're a sexist or a racist. And in the end, this man only cares about himself. This man does not care about you. Just like the news, he talks about him in the news. It talks about him in media, all kinds of things. Everything that we see our favorite shows and our favorite news. I turn off the news. I tune out the news. I tune out one person who I won't say, this guy's a nice guy, but there was some white dude who was burning the rainbow flag, the LGBTQ flag, and he's like, oh, we should give him a slap. I'm like, let him do what he wants. How about punching the people who are shutting down gay marriage with deceptive proposition ads? How about you punch those people first? taking away rights. Native Americans almost didn't get their rights for casinos. I remember all of this stuff. So I think that's all I gotta say. I got one more. This is part of my summer reading. I recommend this book for those of you who have more questions. And keep in mind, in order for Trump to win, he needs a nonpartisan coalition. Because if he just gets Republicans, they're going to turn on him right quick. It's like right quick. They will all, like Pence, okay? They will all turn on him. So let's hope for a better future. If you feel something's wrong with the voting, do not vote. Do not do it. Okay, we got 2024 to look forward to, or cringe.